Hi everyone, and welcome to this snippet. In today's video, I want to be speaking with you about the heart consciousness. I know I've been making several videos about this in the past, and I will continue to talk about heart consciousness over and over and over again because it's so important that we deprogram all of the false beliefs and myths around love, unconditional love, about the heart, about operating from the heart, and that we get a clear understanding of what it really means to operate from the heart. So today I'm going to be talking about a couple of different topics around the topic of operating from your heart. First of all, I want to go into the bigger picture. What is happening right now? What is humanity going through right now? And what has it got to do with the heart consciousness? Then I want to dispel some myths around what it means to operate from the heart. And then I will give you some tools, tricks, and tips on how you can become more heart-centered. So what is happening right now? What is humanity going through? And why is there so much upheaval, and we see a lot of sort of chaos coming to the surface? Well, everything is coming into the light. So everything that can stored in the third chakra and the solar plexus chakra, all of this egoic me versus you stuff is all kind of like purging itself out. So I have been viewing humanity that we're still in toddler phase, because toddlers, they fight over their toys. This is mine. This is yours. They're very self-identified. They're just like learning and exploring, like, wow, I have my sense of self. I am a separate entity, quote unquote separate. And, the I am consciousness is becoming alive in them. So that is a third density solar plexus based level of way of operating. And what's beautiful is that we are observing humanity shifting into fourth density consciousness, a heart-based consciousness. And that is where we transcend a lot of the you versus me, mine and yours, power games. All of this is starting to sort of fade and trickle away. And this we can see so beautifully because we see so many light workers now. People who, and what is a light worker? It's basically someone who just wants to make the world a better place. A mission soul, someone who chose to incarnate here to spread light and love and make the world a better place and help the shift in the collective consciousness into higher states of being. And we've never seen this many coaches before. We've never seen this many healers before. We've never seen, this many people so interested in consciousness than ever before. So it's super fascinating to see this sort of rush of souls, present on the planet that are so eager to be a part of this incredible ascension process. So we're seeing this shift in humanity's collective consciousness, obviously gradually. This is not going to all happen overnight. It's a process that is happening, and it's also about learning how to enjoy the process. Yeah, we are seeing humans shifting into a fourth density consciousness, which is a heart-based consciousness. And before we can fully integrate into a heart-based consciousness, we have to clear all of that stuff that's in the lower chakras, that's in the solar plexus. And especially in the solar plexus, because in the solar plexus, that's where all of the you versus me stuff is. So if you've been noticing that you've been going through a lot of sort of egoic inner battles, and you're starting to feel really fed up with suffering, and you're starting to really kind of feel fed up with your own ego, then that's a good sign, because it means that you're ready to transcend it. And this doesn't mean that your ego is bad. We all have egos. We're not going to get rid of our egos. Our egos are wonderful. We need them to operate in the third dimension. It is 100% necessary to have an ego to operate in the third dimension. I think we all know this. So it's not about getting rid of the ego. It's about integrating the ego and beginning to allow the ego to now listen to the heart. The heart is an incredible power center and is very much connected to your higher self, and is very much connected to unity consciousness, unconditional love. That the the force that is connected to all that is, Christ consciousness. It's a very a transcended level of consciousness. And once you can allow your ego to begin to listen to that aspect of yourself, which has always been there and will always be there, you begin to operate in a very different way. And there's a lot, there's like a different set of integrations that are necessary when you begin to enter a heart-based consciousness. When you begin to enter a heart-based consciousness and unconditionally loving consciousness, there's a lot of new teachings coming in for you. There's a lot of new information coming in for you. There's a lot of new integrations coming in for you. So what do I mean by that? It actually takes a little bit of an adjustment to begin to let go of pain and suffering and duality. Because the mind is so used to struggle, especially if you've had a lot of trauma, is so used to effort, is so used to pain, is so used to suffering, is so used to looking out for the worst case scenario, is so used to that there's enemies out there and you have to fight and win in order to survive. It's a very primal way of being. And I'm not saying everyone is like this, but for most people who are, operating in the third density, which we all have been, then it's very common to operate like that. And you might be like, I don't operate like that, but subconsciously, most people are, always looking to gain something and, go towards pleasure and avoid pain. So that is not to be judged. That is a operating system that functions really well in the third dimension, that you move towards pleasure and you move away from pain, or else it would just be too much chaos. So that is all handy dandy and fine. We can accept that in the third density consciousness. It just is like that. That's okay. It's okay that you have been, this is where a lot of self-forgiveness is coming in. When you begin to transcend the third density consciousness and you go into the fourth density consciousness, there's a whole lot of self-forgiveness that takes place. And the self-forgiveness is what allows for the release of densities. So when you also transcend, I'm talking a lot here about the moving from the third density to the fourth density. But as I'm sharing these bits of information with you, it's also sort of oiling up your consciousness to have a smoother transition, and the codes will carry with you into your day and you can integrate it and just enjoy it. So don't worry about, the sequence of events of information that I'm sharing with you here. Just allow yourself to receive it. So third density to fourth density, a whole lot of self-forgiveness. And the self-forgiveness is a form of self-love, and unconditional love is that true unconditional love, true frequency of unconditional love is one of the most powerful energies that can transmute density. So emotional density, physical density, spiritual density, any density that's alright in any of your bodies. So when you begin to practice that level of self-forgiveness towards yourself and anything that you've done in the past where you have done what you've needed to do to, move towards something that you needed and move away from pain, you begin to let go of that density, and that's when it's easier for yourself to allow your consciousness to transcend up into a heart-based for density consciousness. And it takes practice. It takes practice. It takes practice. It takes practice. Daily practice. It's not like you can just, snap your fingers and then you're like, oh, I'm a fourth density consciousness right now. Because there's so much programming that we need to let go of. There's so much information, there's so many experiences and memories that need to be cleaned and purified. Of course, this is a generalized statement, and for some people, the shift can be instantaneous and then you're just there. But for most of us, we need a little bit of practice, because getting adjusted into a fourth density consciousness, it's different. You become a totally different person. You operate completely differently, and you have different thought patterns. You get new neurological pathways and structures. You literally become a different person. You're still you, and you have your soul essence, but you are becoming a new version of yourself. So it requires a bit of letting go. It requires a bit of acceptance and being able to let go of these old versions of yourself. These old versions of yourself that used to get scared. The old version of yourself that used to have a need to defend yourself and fight. The old version of yourself that was very used to living in drama and trauma. The old version of yourself that would get upset about things that you just don't get upset about anymore. You will feel very different. And that can take a little bit of an adjustment. And that's okay. You can allow yourself to get used to that. So what you will find your mind doing is asking yourself a lot of new questions and pondering, what would it feel like to reside in unconditional love all the time? What is that like? And by beginning to open up to operating from your heart consciousness, this is where we also need to do a lot of clarification on what that actually means. A lot of people have associations with love, with heart, that are negative in nature. A lot of people have associations with the heart and with being unconditionally loving, that means that you're weak, that you are a pushover, that you will just get lazy, sit around and do nothing. There's a lot of negative associations and not the most powerful associations that the collective have developed around love, around being unconditionally loving. So what does it mean to reside in unconditional love, to operate from the heart consciousness? It actually requires a lot of courage to operate from your heart. So it's through your heart and your heart consciousness that you will find it easier to connect to your higher self and to your intuition. And that's where you get higher level guidance. So you might be in a situation and you might tune into your heart, again, which takes practice, but eventually it'll be like second nature to you. You will connect to your heart, which I've mentioned before, has its own neurons. Your heart can actually think. And as you begin to connect to your heart, you will notice that your heart and your higher self will give you some strong indications, some strong guidance on saying something, for example, or making a choice, making a decision that is a little bit scary and might provoke some people, might stir some stuff up. You know, it takes courage to follow your heart. So that requires a whole new level of adjustment to develop the virtue of bravery, to develop the virtue of dedication, to develop the virtue of persistence, to develop the virtue of self-reliance, to develop the virtue of trust. There's a lot of new virtues that the heart consciousness will carve you into. So it's a beautiful journey, but it does require some courage and practice of connecting to your heart and what that feels like. It's a feeling. So I have referred to the formula before with my clients and also different ways of practicing what it's like to operate from your heart consciousness. Basically, a very simple way is obviously to focus your attention on your actual physical heart. That can help. And also to notice your energy field and the level of expansion and contraction that you feel. So for those of you who are familiar with Bashar, you know how to follow the formula. And basically, the instructions are tune in with yourself, how you feel in your body. When you need to make a decision, feel into whether it feels expansive or whether it feels like contraction. If it feels like expansion and excitement, that is your higher self saying, yeah, do this, go for that, follow that path. If it feels like contraction, then it's a no. One thing you have to make sure of is to make sure that when you get a contraction, that the contraction doesn't come from a fear-based belief. This is where subconscious reprogramming comes in handy dandy a lot. So you need to do a self-evaluation to make sure that the contraction is either the contraction is a no, that's your higher self saying, don't do that. So you have to learn how to be able to distinguish between what is a no, a contraction for a no, and what is a contraction from a fear-based belief. For example, let's say you get invited to hold a talk, a speech somewhere in front of a big audience, and you might get a contraction. That contraction, if it's from your higher self, will say, don't do that. You know, who knows? Your higher self, which is connected to all timelines and knows everything, might see that there will be a big fire or a bomb going off at the event and it's not meant for you to be there. For example, who knows? So you might get a contraction because you're just not supposed to be there that night. For whatever reason, you can trust your higher self to know that. You don't have to know that. Or you get a contraction because there's a fear-based belief that says, you're going to make a fool out of yourself, or don't do that because you'll get judged, or don't do that because you're not pretty enough, or you're not smart enough, or you're not eloquent enough, or you don't know how to talk nicely, or whatever. You don't know how to hold speeches. That stems from a fear-based belief. So you need to be able to make sure to distinguish what is an actual no, just a clear contracting no, and what is a fear-based belief. So I teach this all to my clients, and in the power method. So that is a way to begin to operate from the heart consciousness, is to tap into that feeling of expansion and contraction. And that is the way to begin to get used to speaking with your higher self. A lot of times we've been so programmed to operate from our minds, to think, make logical decisions, and to follow rules, to follow what's expected. We're all starting to get used to now that have to operate like that. You can always come back to the heart. The heart, the heart, the heart, the heart, the heart is your safety point, is your power center. The heart always knows because it's connected to your higher self, and your higher self is connected to all timelines, and your higher self will let you know. Your higher self has got your back. So you can trust your heart, even though it's a little scary sometimes. So that was a little bit about what humanity is going through. We're going through a shift into fourth density, which is a heart-based consciousness. I already gave you some tips and advice on how you can connect to your heart. I might make some more videos about that. And that's so interesting. I was just going to come to a close here and the light went off. Good timing. Oh, I think that prompted me to share that the fun thing that there's a lot of fun things that happen once you start to reside and operate from a heart consciousness. There's synchronicities take place and magic takes place, and it's just so wonderful and effortless and incredible, and you can turn thought into matter in very short periods of time, and you get granted all of these magical tools and skill sets because you're operating from the heart consciousness. You will not be granted things that you egoically cling to and desire until you've reached a level of maturation, maturity, maturity in yourself and in your level of consciousness. Because where you're operating from, if you're operating from heart consciousness, you can also trust that what you decide to do and where you're operating from is in the highest good for yourself and all that is, because your heart and your higher self is connected to everyone else's higher self. This net, this collective net of information sharing all the time. Everything is interconnected. Everything. We can't see it with our physical eyes. Everything is interconnected beyond what the human intellect and mind is able to perceive. It is incredible. For anyone who has done plant medicines and ceremonial journeys and you have had, expanded consciousness experiences, you know this. We become so arrogant in our human minds and thinking that we know everything when the human mind is not capable of knowing everything. It is way too much for the human brain to be able to do. It is like trying to download every single file and every single piece of information onto your laptop is just not capable of holding all that information. It's not supposed to do that either. But it can tap into. And your mind and your consciousness can tap into. And your heart consciousness will help you to do that. Just a little bit of clarification around what it means to be in the heart consciousness, and also some myths. So just right now, one thing that's very important and that we do a lot in theta healing and subconscious reprogramming is to clarify distortions of definitions. A lot of times we have a distorted definition of what love is, what conditional love is, what the heart is, and what it means to be operate from the heart consciousness. So we can just clear right now that operating from your heart means that you're weak. Cleared doesn't mean that, actually means that you're brave and strong. We can just clear right now that operating from unconditional love means that you just accept everyone's behavior, even if it's wrong, or if it's horrible, or that you allow yourself to get walked all over. No, you actually get stronger boundaries when you operate from your heart consciousness. We can just clear right now that operating from your heart means that you are weak, that you are susceptible to attack, that you won't be able to protect yourself because it's the ego that we're so used to the ego wanting to protect itself and keeping you safe and this and like fighting wars and this and that. Your heart consciousness will keep you even safer than your ego because your heart consciousness is connected to your higher self. That part of you that's connected to everything. I think that part is a little bit better at, being 2 steps ahead for you. So it will give you some pretty cool, heads up. So you're very protected when you're operating from a heart consciousness. You could trust that. What else would we like to clear? We can also clear that operating from your heart consciousness makes you superior in any way. That, now you're above. Now you're in the fourth density. Now you're above everyone who's in the third density. That has anything to do with arrogance, egotism, being superior. Absolutely not. If anything, it makes you more humble. If anything, it makes you more interconnected with everyone, and you see the beauty in everyone, and you feel unconditional love for all that is. It's the ego that likes to be superior. It's the ego that likes to be arrogant. It's the ego that likes to make itself above others. It's the power struggle that it enjoys to do. So when you're in your heart consciousness, you actually transcend that. But with transcendence, even with the, do you notice that words are so powerful? Even with the words transcendence, then there's some cleaning that needs to be done in the human collective consciousness when it comes to associations with the word transcendence. Because even with the word transcendence, there's a subconscious association that transcending means better than. That when you have transcended, you are above. When you have transcended, you are better than others. When you have transcended, you are superior. Even when you transcend and you just move on to a next level, you're not better. You're not superior. You're not, up there and everyone else is down there. You're connected to all that is. So when you begin to transcend the need to be superior, when you begin to transcend the need to be arrogant, when you need to transcend the need to be better than everyone else, you realize that you are everyone else. You are connected to all that is. You were just all in this together, which is so beautiful. So it humbles you, but it humbles you in a way that is empowering and not weakening. Anything else to clear right now? Check in. Also, a lot of people have associations that with if you become heart-based and you become unconditionally loving, that you won't have the same drive. You won't have that same like, I'm gonna go out there and fulfill my soul mission. I'm gonna get this stuff done. You actually get more energy, and you deplete yourself less. When you operate from the third density, there's often these rounds of burnout and exhaustion because there's a lot of fuel and the drive and that need to become better, the need to beat others, the need to compete, the need to become superior. The ego does that, and that's when you go through these rounds of acceleration but also burnout, and then you accelerate and then you burn out, and then you accelerate and you burn out. When you operate from your heart consciousness, you actually see smoother waves smoother ways of being, and you're able to be more present in your daily life in each now moment. You don't live so much in the past and in the future anymore. The distortion here that a lot of people have with being heart-based and being in each now moment is that they associate that with just being just a bit sort of oblivious and empty in the head, and that you won't be able to think, you won't be able to have thoughts, you won't be able to make plans because you're just sort of forever in the now moment. That is a big distortion. You won't become like a vegetable if you operate from a heart consciousness. And if anything, you're able to tap into large pieces of information and data through your heart consciousness. And, it's not uncommon to get a lot of psychic skills and a lot of remote viewing abilities and a lot of psionic abilities to start to turn on. Then you'll be able to download larger pieces of information from your higher self that is relevant. Relevance is very important. It's not going to grant you some sort of amazing skill, and now you can sort of, suddenly now you can levitate and you can use telekinesis and move things around because it's just cool. It has to do with relevance. So with you being able to access large pieces of data of information for the work that you want to do, for the service that you want to provide, has to do with relevance. Is it relevant to you and the people that you want to serve? If it is, most likely you will get access. And if it is, most likely you'll be able to download business plans, you'll be able to download, future visions for yourself. You'll be able to tap in parallel timelines, and you get more quantum. You start to tap into these parallel timelines of actual realities that you want to play out, and you can begin to magnetize those realities into this dimension. You can collapse them into this real-time reality. So you can actually begin to manifest things easier, more effortlessly, and with less physical action. That's not to say that physical action is not necessary. It's absolutely necessary because you are still in the third dimension. But when you operate from a fourth density consciousness in the third dimension, it's easier for you to manifest, basically, with less blood, sweat, tears, and effort. So that's nice. And that's a nice big perk. And it becomes more and more like that the more and more you practice to reside in your heart and operate from your heart. So I'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for watching. Do subscribe and click on all the things. That does help me to make more videos. And if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.